Hello everyone, Miss Meek here. Today we're going to be talking about converting fractions and percents. Converting fractions and percents. This is the beginning of a new block of information talking about something called a percent. Well, what is a percent? Let's start off talking about that. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. So we just wrapped up talking about ratios and rates and unit rates and proportions, and a percent goes along with that information. It is another way to compare numbers. This time we are comparing numbers specifically out of 100 or to 100. And so the most important information that you need to know about percents is that all percents are out of 100. All percents, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are being compared out of 100. And just in case you didn't know, percents have their own mathematical symbol. A percent sign looks like this. Some people will connect them like this. It's kind of a fancy way of doing it, but those are two different ways to write percent signs. And so if you see that sign, that is how numbers are identified as being percents. So let's go ahead and talk about our specific lesson today, which is taking percents and turning them to fractions, and then taking fractions and turning them into percents. We're going to start with taking a percent and turning it into a fraction. Just as a reminder, the most important information about percents is that all percents are out of 100. So to turn a percent into a fraction, I am going to take my percent and I am going to write it out of 100 or over 100. Ta-da! There's my fraction. Now, as you know, in 6th grade, we are big fans of simplifying fractions. So we are going to have to simplify these guys into an equivalent form. And so I am going to check for that. I can divide this first guy by 2. And so my final answer is going to be 3 over 50. 3 over 50 is my final answer there. All right, for number 2, again, all percents, no matter how big they are or how small they are, they're all out of 100. So this is 40 out of 100, or 40 over 100 there. And then I am going to try to simplify this guy. So I can divide it by 2, by 4, by 10. I actually can divide it by 20. That is the biggest number I can divide this guy by. And so that means I can get to my answer a little bit quicker. And that's going to be 2/5, or 2 over 5. Again, the pathway of you simplifying that fraction down may look a little different than mine, but we will end up with the same simplified fraction. The next one, number 3, all percents, no matter how big or small they are out of 100. So this is 100 over 100. Well, when I go to simplify this guy, I am going to divide it by 100. We also know that any number over itself equals 1 whole. So that's something that's really important to know, is that 100% represents 1 whole of something. Like if I'm trying to collect donations and I reach 100% of my goal, that means that I collected the entire amount of my goal. So for example, say that I was trying to fundraise $50 and I reached 100% of my goal. That means that I fundraised $50. I got the amount that I wanted. So that is something really important to know, that 100% represents 1 whole, meaning you got the whole amount. Think about it. When you make a 100 on your projects or your papers or your homework, that means you got all of them right. Okay, that's why your grade is actually a percentage. It's how many did you get right? How many points did you get out of the 100%? All right, and then again, no matter how big or small these percents are, they are out of 100. Even if our percent is over 100, it is still out of 100. What that means is that my goal was to collect $50 and I reached 200% of my goal, not only did I collect the $50 that I wanted to, that would be 100%, I doubled it. That means I collected $100. I went past my goal twice. So I got 50 and then I went and got another 50 for a total of $100. So a percent over 100 just means that you hit your goal, you got all of it, and went past it. You got more of what your goal was. What it means for our fractions is it means that I am going to have a whole number as part of my fraction, meaning that I am going to end up with a mixed number here. Now, you're more than welcome to put it over 100 and then simplify it. I'm going to divide this guy by 10. And when I do that, I get 21 over 10. And then I have to convert that into a mixed number. Remember, the way that I do that is I ask myself, how many times does 10 fit into 21? Well, 2 times. And that's 20. And so I have 1 out of 10 left over. And so my final answer is 2 1/10. Another way to think about this one is if I know that 200% equals 2 wholes, because if 100% equals 1 whole, that means 200% would equal 2 wholes. All I would have to do is figure out what that 10% is as a fraction. It would be 10 over 100, simplified down to 1/10. And so I can get my answer like that as well, 2 1/10. I would just need to write these two things right here together for 2 1/10. Okay, so you can break apart the numbers in your brain like that, or if you just want to have one method, do it the same way every single time, then you can just put that percent over 100 and simplify it. Again, no matter how big or small a percent is, it's out of 100. You put it over 100 and then you simplify it down. Now, if we know how to turn a percent into a fraction, we also need to know how to take a fraction and turn it into a percent. So the way that we're going to do that is, again, all percents are out of 100. So if I can get my denominator to become a 100, then I will know what my percent is. So my goal is to try to get the denominator to 100. For this first one, what times 5 gets me to 100? It's 20. And so when I do that, I end up with 40 over 100. This top number right here is going to be our percent, because remember, percents are out of 100. So 40 out of 100 is 40%. Let's try another one. Again, I want to get my denominator to equal 100. So what times 4 gives me 100? 25. And so on top here, I have 25 out of 100. If the number is over 100, that is my percent. Remember, percents are out of 100, so 25% is 25 over 100 there. On number 3, again, trying to get a 100 there on the bottom. What times 20 gets me to 100? It is 5. Do the same on the top there. That gets me 15. If my number's over 100, that is my percent, so 15%. Again, the reason why that is because percents are out of 100. So if I have 15 over 100, that 15 represents 15% because it's 15 out of 100. On number 4, I have a mixed number. Now, there's 2 different ways that you can think about this. Again, we know that this 1 right here, a whole number, 1, equals 100%. So that just means we have to figure out what this 7/10 is. Again, our whole goal is to get that denominator to 100. 10 times 10 gets me to 100. So 7 times 10 is 70. So there is my percent. Now, don't forget, you have to add it to this 100% down here. And so our final answer is going to be 170%. All right, so that is how we take fractions and turn them into percents. That's how we take percents and turn them into fractions. The biggest piece and most important piece of information today is going to be that all percents are out of 100. And because you know that, you should be able to turn percents into fractions and then in turn take fractions and turn them into percents. All right, I hope this helped you learn something new. I will talk to you later. Bye.